Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast gives a fan's perspective on IndyCar and other forms of motorsport. Before we get started talking about the championship and the race at Laguna Seca, let me introduce you to my co-host and user of unsharpened pencils, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? What do you got going on with
Excellent.
pencil? Why do you have an unsharpened pencil?
I must take a lot of notes, and I don't have a sharpener in my office.
What?
So
well, we don't. The notes thing's not true. Why don't you use like one of these?
Oh, because
and for those
mechanical
on the pod,
pencil, those are not real.
Pencil,
I like a number 2 pencil. It's got
Tim
real
likes
wood.
his number 2 Ticonderoga.
Yes. Did you see that?
No, it's just what wood pencils are.
Oh, you just know that. It's actually a Dixon.
There you go.
That's why I use it. See? Now that everybody saw my fingers on the screen.
There you go.
Gross, but everybody gets to see everything on this show. There are no secrets here, right, Dan?
That's right.
No secrets at all. What are you drinking out of?
I'm drinking out of my Indianapolis 500 or Indianapolis Motor Speedway mug.
That is pretty hot.
Where'd you walking the streets with Bill and Jill from Shelby when we went to the 500 this past May.
Is it
was before
your merchandise, or did you get it off the guy on the side of the road?
No, I got it at one of the trailers.
Oh,
merch trailer. Yep.
So it's legit. It looks pretty cool.
Thank you.
I like keep your beverage
try not to use it too much because I don't want it to fade out and get gross.
How would it fade? It looks like it's etched. Let me see it again one more time.
It is, but the dishwasher would, take the finish off it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
There you go. Compelling radio for our podcast listeners.
Pencils and cups.
All right, mugs. Yeah. So.
All right, is that it? Are we done?
No. And here's why, Timmy. We have a champion. We have not only a champion, but we also have a race winner. And I say that only because I think that sometimes we overlook the race winner, the final race winner. When
somebody won the race?
Yes. Can you believe it? Shocking.
Jeez.
And I think we overlook those sometimes when it's somebody who didn't win the championship.
Always.
Yeah. Always,
every last race of the season, the winner gets overlooked.
Right. My wife very rationally said to me, well, of course they're not going to talk about Polo because Will won the championship. And I'm like, no, we got plenty of time to get to Will. Let's talk to Polo first. Let's see the Ganassi thing, right? That's what everybody wanted to see. That was the money shot, right? Wanted to see Ganassi congratulate.
They never showed it from what I saw.
Never showed it. He leaned in, I guess.
Standing off the back side. That's the only thing I saw. I was waiting for the reception of him coming home in first place, but
exactly.
Never saw it.
So he looked happy. His team looked happy. Chip even looked happy, standing a little off to the side. So. So really, I guess on behalf of the Turn 4 podcast, congrats to Alex Palou for taking his first and only win of the 2022 IndyCar season. This was 364 days after his last win, which was Portland last year, obviously. But that's really not the story, right?
It's not.
It's not. It's that he finished 4th in this year's championship, which is very respectful defense of his championship.
Well, even then, that's not the story. 5th.
I haven't. 5th. That's right. Based on the tiebreaker. Yep. You're right.
Based on the tiebreaker. It's points wise, they were both at 510, him and Scotty Mack, but Scotty Mack took 4th overall.
That's right. Good job. Good call on that, because I'm actually looking at it and I didn't even correct myself. So
that's all right.
The story really is he did all this while being sued in federal court by his current employer sometime around mid-season. Right? So I'm saying that you're happy for Palou. I think I'm happy for Palou. I'm definitely happy for Palou on this win and putting this behind me. How do you feel, Tim?
Oh, I'm happy too, but he dominated. Something changed in that car.
Oh, yeah.
Something changed. So I'm going to go conspiracy here a little bit.
I love it.
That in the final race, they said, you know what? We're not going to govern his engine. We're not going to change something on that car, and we're just going to let him go. And he tore it up.
30 seconds. Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what we did different. We've been doing the same thing all the time. I don't know what we found. So I did. And this is going far-fetched, right? Did Ganassi do something with his car in the past? I don't know. But when you come out at Laguna, and I'm not saying Chip, himself, but did they technical measures on that car, I don't know, but that was the old Pillow, and I say old even though he's young. That was the old Pillow from last year, and
Oh
just
yeah.
driving and being dominant, and that was impressive. I don't know. Everybody's tires were falling off. Everybody that had fuel mileage issues. If you talk about Newgarden and what he did, Pillow didn't have either, and won that race.
No.
Dominated that race.
He had a new engine, so maybe they didn't care, right? It just needed to finish one race. So wind it up as high as you can get it and just go party mode for all.
Yeah, but I think you'd have fuel issues if not. But so Honda did a great job. So they did something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that about fuel issues. They were talking about, oh, people are going to have to save and they're going to have to do whatever. And it's like, this was potentially a 4-stop race because of the
It was for a lot
tire
of them,
issues. Right.
Yeah.
So what fuel issues? I think that's where you go right off the bat is you go all the way to the wall. And
yeah,
if you got to stop,
I thought the last two stints
again,
were a little long. The last two stints were a little long. It seemed like drivers are getting off and on their reds quickly at the beginning of the race, and then at the end of the race they were on blacks for the last two stints. And I know I'm not saying everybody was on blacks, but the majority of the front runners were, so they could go longer stints at the end of the race. So that's where I had thought the fuel mileage was going to be an issue, because you saw Newgarden take another pit stop, but he was running reds in order to, well, not the last stint, but he was running reds on the second to last stint to really make up some time.
Yeah. Further on Pillow, have you noticed though, maybe certainly this weekend, let's just put it at that. This weekend, do you feel like the narrative has changed on Pillow and what his future holds and where he'll be applying his talents next year?
No, I don't think so. I think
you don't see reconciliation on the horizon. Yeah,
Kevin Lee asked direct in the post-race interview, and I was really surprised to see him ask it.
I know, and weird. Yeah,
and Pillow was taken back by it as well and tried to come up with an answer that
properly deflective. Yeah, but it didn't, not the same as before, and he certainly didn't say his anticipation is to move on and be driving a Aero McLaren next year.
No, it sounds like it's up in the air. He doesn't know what he's going to be doing. Right. And it sounded like in discussions that I overheard people talking about with Zach Brown, was that they got to make a decision by the end of October on what's going on in that.
I don't know why. It seems pretty arbitrary to me. And Dale Coyne puts people in cars in February and still feels a pretty good ride.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Maybe that's the timeline. That
could be an arbitrary thing, right? It could be. It could also be the option that he might have on Felix.
Yeah, it could be, right? Because Felix needs to make a decision of where he's going. I know he's apparently signed with McLaren, but you never know if anybody's really signed with McLaren. Right. It seems to come and go. So from that perspective, obviously Felix Rosenqvist wants an answer, so he can. I would assume he wants to stay in IndyCar. He finished 4th this past weekend, so he had a good run. Where
do you put stronger odds on Pillow driving next year? Back in the number 10 or in one of the Aero McLarens?
I don't think he's going to make it to Aero. I think Chip's going to destroy that. I don't think he's going to make it into the 10. I don't think he's going to be in the series, unfortunately.
Wow. So you don't think either, right? Neither or both? Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to pay the bounty that I think you're going to talk about.
No, but if you don't pay it, then Chip just activates the contract that Chip thinks he's got and keeps him in the number 10.
But Pillow doesn't want to race in the number 10, and that's why they're...
But he's got a contract.
Going to federal court.
That's what you've been telling me. He's got a contract to race in the number 10.
He does have a contract, is my understanding, based on all my inside knowledge. You're supposed to chuckle at that.
Yeah, I know. But we're not insiders.
Yeah, I know. But
just a couple of knuckleheads.
I don't think he's going to force him to drive. This goes back to our conversation several episodes ago. I don't think he's going to force him to drive the car. He's just going to force him, make it difficult for him to be in another car in the series, is my understanding.
Yeah, I think I'm putting it more right now that it's more likely that Pillow will be back in that number 10, whether he likes it or not. I think he'll be back in that number 10.
That's what you're going for?
Yeah, I am. And I think that, whatever it is that Zach Brown was dangling in front of all these guys, remains to be seen and remains to be told. And maybe that's put a little bit of a bad taste in Pillow's mouth there with that, because Oscar Piastri is going to run that Formula One car, that second Formula One car alongside Lando Norris. There is no other. There is no other Aero McLaren. There is no other McLaren on the Formula One grid.
No, there's not. There's only two.
And I don't know that you want to blow up your relationship with Chip Ganassi, who arguably has been the best team in IndyCar for, and I'm saying that as a Penske fan, for what, a decade? I don't know that, and maybe he was willing to do that when he thought that there was a path to Formula One. Now that path is well grown over and it's hard to see. So, you could eat a little crow. He's young enough. He could eat a little, and he's nice enough. He could eat a little crow, get back in that number 10, get back to some wins next year and move on. And look, and if his contract runs out with Ganassi at the end of next year, not a bad time. Because willpower
opportunities,
up, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. There could be some other drivers that are up too.
Yeah.
Ericsson.
I don't know if Chip's going to allow him to be in his car, though. I just think Chip's.
I do. Chip. Yeah. We'll talk about it in subsequent episodes. But I'm more around where you were 3 weeks ago, and now you're around where I was. Right? Because 3 weeks ago, I was like, there's no way. Chip's just making it hard on everybody, and he's going to try to get some money out of McLaren. And even if Chip wins, Chip's not putting him in that car.
That's what I think's happening. But
I don't
think he'll be in there.
I think he'll be in there.
You've changed your thoughts on that. Interesting.
Yep.
Well, it was a great performance and
amazing performance, wasn't it? He was good from the start too. I think when he didn't qualify that great, but he qualified better than his teammates did.
Yeah. Here's the
and I think he was being held up a little bit by McLaughlin. So as soon as he got around Scott, he was off to the races. You could see how fast that car was at that point, which is crazy because they were not good as a team, right? They tested there and they still weren't that good as a team. He's the only one that was able to put that race together because everybody else struggled. I mean, I'm not talking Jimmy J, but Dixon, Ericsson, they were
all off. Yeah. They didn't do well. I thought the celebration was really flat. Super flat.
We might be reading into that.
Like, why would you bring there's a lot of
right, but we might be reading into that because, like I said in the beginning, right? It's the championship episode, or it's the championship decider, so he's going to get second billing anyway.
Yeah, but your team should be ecstatic that you won.
They looked pretty good to me.
Win of the season, first win you said in 364 days. That's almost a year. Yeah, and it was they were all just standing around like he's our driver today, but not tomorrow. It was kind of what
it's odd. It's got to be super odd for everybody.
Yeah, and even Chip standing off to the left, I guess it would have been right on the screen, and he had a smile on his face. I'm not sure why. He had a chance at the championship this past weekend and didn't perform well. He had one driver knock it out of the park, which I think took everybody by surprise. No one was expecting that. And I don't see him coming back, but we'll see.
Second place goes to the driver who in any other year would have been and should have been the runaway champion, a la Formula One style, right? Would have finished this thing 3 races ago. And that's Joseph Newgarden.
What a run.
Tell me how you feel about his season and what you think Newgarden's offseason is going to be like.
Well, I think the question is, what does he have to do right this offseason to really perform next year? And I don't think he has to do anything different, honestly. There's nothing that he needs to do differently. I think Penske needs to be better at Indy, just overall. If they're better at Indy, he's got more points.
He finished ahead of Power at Indy, by the way.
Okay, but then look at Newgarden's suspension that broke at Iowa.
Yep.
Imagine if that didn't happen.
That can't be helped, yeah.
Yeah, you can't. That's on Team Penske. That's on whatever suspension piece that broke. If you look at that, this is very interesting. If you look at that, Newgarden would have 42 more points than he has today. And Will would have 7 less points than he has today. And if you look at the final standings, Newgarden...
You're saying if he would have won. You're saying if he would have won...
He was going to win.
You never right. You're right. Okay.
If that suspension piece didn't break, he would have won that race. No,
Yep.
no questions. He was the fastest car. He won the first race. He was dominant in the second.
Mhm.
He was half a lap ahead, whatever you want to call it. There was no stopping him. And in the final standings, Newgarden lost by 16 points.
Right.
So he would have been the champion.
He would have.
So I don't think he really needs to do anything different. Yeah, could you have some better finishes here and there? Yeah. Is it all his fault? No, I think it's just circumstance. You have 5 wins in a race season. I don't think you have to change anything. You have 5 wins in the season.
Yeah,
So
5 wins. He should have won it.
He should have.
So
There's some odd things that took place.
I'm gonna put together what I think it will be a thoughtful response to that. But I want to say this first. I was driving home from Northern Michigan, listening to qualifying on the radio Saturday afternoon.
Can I ask what you're doing up north?
I couldn't believe. No, we'll talk about it later if you want. I couldn't believe Newgarden threw away his qualifying effort. But then again, yes, I could. I could, because it's an example of the roller coaster ride that has been Newgarden's season. Okay. Now you talk about Iowa and that mechanical default, right? Problem at Iowa that ruined his Iowa win, which should have been a win, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Laguna, and what he had to do at Laguna: qualify well, put it near the front, elbow out Will if he could, right? Take the pull if he could, because it would give him 1 bonus point. Threw it away.
Yeah.
Threw it away. You know who didn't? You know who didn't? Will. You know, and how did Will win the championship? We've been saying it for the last several podcasts. Patient power. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Newgarden lost Iowa because of mechanical, no doubt. Would have changed his entire season. Things like this is what I think Newgarden needs to work on in the offseason. He has to shake off the fact that he was the best driver in the field this season by far. And he was. There was no doubt about it. 5 wins. Yep. Could have been 6, right?
Should have
but
been.
Stuff like this is what he needs to learn. And he should know it already, in my opinion, right? He should know it already, because he is a multi-time champion in this series. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of experience. He's not Scott McLaughlin. Scott just finished his 2nd full season of IndyCar. Scott's going to be a thorn in Joseph's side next year.
Yeah.
So does Joseph need to work on something next year? You say no, I say yeah. He's got to work on this. You can't throw away points. You got to be more Dixon-esque, right? Which is what Will did. And Will won that championship. Yeah, I hope that was thoughtful.
It doesn't change my mind.
It isn't anything. It was
very inspirational. I feel much better now. I feel a little more grounded here. But
right.
I don't think you got to change. Like I said, I don't think you got to change anything. He qualified 25th, which is horrific, and he finished 2nd.
Yeah,
that's what you got to do to win championships. You're going to have days where the car goes off, or you.
But he lucked out. Anything could have happened there.
That's
yes, because you have to come through the entire field. And you have Dalton Kellett, right? Who was, this episode could be titled Dalton Spins Again, right? You got to come through Grosjean. You had to come through Pato O'Ward, who hip checked Will last week at Portland, knowing that Will's fighting for a championship. You never know what you're going to get there. You never know what you're going to get Hey, Grosjean could have taken his revenge from Nashville. Welcome to Laguna Seca, Joseph. Right? Bienvenue.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And
but I wouldn't say he got
was he lucky?
Luck.
Yes, absolutely. He had to come through all those cars, and he had to do it several times, because every time he stopped, he was back in the midfield and then had to drive it right through.
There's a piece of luck, but I think overall it just shows how dominant Newgarden.
Absolutely. Best driver in the field.
Yes.
This season. Best driver in the field this season.
Yep. Proves your point on that. Yes. I don't know.
It wouldn't have made any difference, though, if he'd have qualified better.
No, there would have been no difference to the outcome if he qualified, 1st or 2nd or 3rd. It didn't really matter.
Nope.
I don't think he would have had enough for Palou anyways to win the race.
No, I don't think anybody did.
No.
And it didn't matter, because 3rd place goes to Will. And we knew that going into this race, Will had to finish on the podium in order to ensure that championship. Sometime during the race, because he had garnered enough bonus points, the pole and then laps led, not most, but laps led, he had a little bit more of a cushion because he could then finish fifth. And it didn't matter where Newgarden finished.
Correct.
So, but nonetheless, he finished third. So
Will did everything he needed to do, just like you mentioned.
All season.
Everywhere. Which is great. You have one win, Detroit, which we were there. You have one win all season and you win the championship. And there's other scenarios that if they would have happened this season, there's no way he would have won.
None.
And I just mentioned the one is Newgarden. There's another one.
Any other season, any other time, any other universe, Newgarden would have wrapped this thing up, right? What? Iowa. Right? I mean,
Dixon could have wrapped this thing up too.
Yeah.
He had one miscue this year. He had one miscue, one speed pit violation that cost him double
worst
points
one you could possibly have. Yeah.
If he would have won that, we would have been talking about Dixon winning a championship again, which would have been his seventh,
blown
right?
right seventh. Yep.
A lot of different things happened this season to allow Will to have only one win and win the championship.
Right. So Will was my in-season pick as champion as kind of the season started to progress and kind of shake toward where this thing was going to finish out. And I never wavered on that. And I think I've mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. The reason I didn't waver on it is because I remember the stat from Pelot last year. Pelot finished 6-ish, right? Average. And he won the championship. Will had been trending in that 6-ish average finish category. Because of that, solely because of that, I could not waver off of where that Will Power was going to win this championship.
Yeah, and I was thinking otherwise. I thought the charging Newgarden was going to make it happen, and he didn't, obviously. But he had a great season. He finished where I picked him to finish at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
which is amazing. But yeah,
everything else is way wrong. But
you stuck with Will.
Yeah,
I got an email today from one of my clients that said you were right. I actually had a client email
that I was right.
No, that I was right.
Oh.
That I was right.
You were right about what?
I was right about it was a 2-horse race. It was between Will and Newgarden, and everybody else was out.
Yeah.
And his one statement to me during this meeting we had, which was a couple weeks ago, was can't count Dixon out, but they just didn't have it.
It's true.
Didn't have it. It was a nice Monday morning email.
It
was good.
Good job. Will, of course, qualified on pole. He did what he needed to do. He did exactly what he needed to do. And that broke the tie with Mario Andretti for first all time in poles gained.
I watched. You listened. I watched. It was good to see.
Yeah.
It was like watching history.
Yeah.
Watching history on a recording because I didn't watch it live on a replay on Peacock, but it was cool. I didn't think it was going to happen, and it did.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And Mario was excited.
I didn't think he was going to take that pole either, but
yeah, I didn't either. And
Mario looked excited.
Yeah. The team was ecstatic. Will looked focused on the race.
Because
he was happy
about it. Because he'd lost it. His second place a lot of times. And some of those cases.
4 other times.
Yeah, had to do something just to get to win the championship. And it lost. So other notable moments from Laguna, at least to me, Kellamilot and Junco's Hollinger Racing qualify second, Tim. Second place.
I couldn't believe it.
We're big fans of this team, right? We're big fans of this team. We spent a lot of time talking to Ricardo Juncos at Detroit, which was amazing, the time that he gave us. They announced their second car this week. No driver on that yet.
We were right on that too, because he told us.
He told us, yeah.
He told us that was happening, and I think you were a little skeptical.
I didn't want to say it only because I didn't know if he knew we would say it. So I was hesitant to say that.
Well, he told us he was doing it.
Yeah, but I'm also hesitant to say it because everybody's caveat, right? My favorite caveat: if budget can be found, we're going to add a second car next year, right?
But I almost believe everything I hear. You could tell me the sun's not coming up today, and be like, "Oh, cool. Hopefully, we'll be back."
Hence
tomorrow.
the reason why you're wearing a sweatshirt and I'm wearing short sleeves.
It's chilly. It's 63 degrees here. It's cold.
Whatever.
You did pretty far up north compared to you.
Yeah,
so
compared to me.
Yeah, it's weather changes.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Now, I will also, your client gave you credit this morning, but you nailed the Rookie of the Year standings too. You picked Christian Lundgaard, which is, I don't know, it was a flyer, I think, by you. That wasn't clairvoyance.
You were shocked. I remember your reaction when I was like, he's going to win the championship.
And he won it over my pick. Yeah, who was David Malukas.
I was nervous.
So good
Malukas
job by you.
Coming on fire, and he qualified better than Lundgaard. And then they had a bad strategy.
Yeah,
this is Malukas I'm talking about, where they came in and got reds a second time, and it just threw their whole race off, and that was the end of it. And I gave a couple thumbs up for saying, hey, I won that one.
Yeah. Chevy is, of course, the manufacturer's champ this year as well. 7th time for that. So congratulations to Chevrolet. Hometown heroes here, right? We're in Metro Detroit. So Herta, who owned this place, couldn't seem to put it together, which was kind of amazing to me. Qualifying issue, then in race, and of course another pit stop issue, left front not going on in time and putting him behind. So kind of odd to see that Herta struggled the way he did. Car seemed to be pretty good, but not great. Not in the
third best.
Yeah, not in the Pelot and Newgarden category, but car seemed good, but they just didn't have it. So
yeah, so he was, like I said, he was third best out of the Andretti Autosport guys, and you have Romain Grosjean leading that, and then Alexander Rossi, and then Colton. So yeah.
I will say this though: at one point on track, Herta, McLaughlin, Ericsson, and then Rossi at one point too. That was the best racing that was going on in this field, and it was right in the midfield. It was fun to see, right? It was fun to see because Ericsson, who normally does not race this way, had his elbows out. Right? He was very aggressive this week, and that's not a normal pace for him.
That is correct.
Maybe a little too late though. If he'd have been a little more aggressive during the season,
I think so. Yeah,
because he had that Indy 500 points pad that just kind of slipped through as the season progressed. But he was
and Rossi,
I think, a little too safe.
Rossi raced him really hard.
Yes,
there was a lot of bumping and a lot of cars in the sand. Marcus got the worst of it, but at the end of the day, Marcus still passed Rossi.
Yeah,
but you're right. The best action was midfield, which was kind of odd for an IndyCar race. It reminds me of a different series where all the racing is midfield. But it was good to watch. I'm glad what's that?
Formula E? Who are you talking about?
Formula One, where all the racing is midfield. You know what I'm talking about. So the debate in my house was which race was better.
Whoa, really?
This past weekend.
Monza was not a good race.
No, it finished under yellow, but
oh, we're going to talk about that though. We're going to talk
where we are. Right.
Yeah. Yep. It's not in your notes, but it's in mine. So,
but the question: which race was better?
IndyCar.
About the same. But we'll get to that.
But I'm an IndyCar.
You're going to talk about Formula One, so we'll bring it up then.
Yeah. I said a couple episodes ago, at least I think I did, that Ganassi's setup philosophy this year seemed to favor Pelot and Ericsson over Dixon. And I say that particularly from a qualifying perspective, because we've seen that Dixon has struggled in qualifying. Do you agree with that? Did you see that? Is that how you saw the Ganassi team this year? Outside of Indy, in general, I felt like Pelot and Ericsson might have been a little better to begin with.
I don't know. I don't think so. I disagree on that. I think they try to always set it up for Dixon. Dixon's the leader of that team, and Dixon's been a staple forever. They were missing something, and I don't think it was a setup that we're going to gear this towards the two newer guys. They just didn't have it on qualifying days and race days. Dixon will come through the field most every time except this past weekend.
Yep.
So no, I don't think so. Not at the end of the day. And what, Dixon was third out of the Ganassi guys, really?
Right. 96 passes from Scott Dixon this season, which I think is even more than Graham Rahal. And the reason why Graham is that pass leader is because he qualifies, in the mid-teens. They've never been able to get that. It's either Graham, has a hard time with one single lap, or the team does. And I'm willing to say that it's the team, because if you look at the rest of them, that's pretty on trend. But not on trend at
you
Ganassi.
brought up Graham, but Lundgaard killed both of his teammates.
The end of the
Just
season.
punished them.
After they flipped a switch somewhere, and it seemed to work out for Lundgaard.
Yeah,
And even Graham couldn't get a hold of it as quickly as Christian did, and Jack never came to terms with it at all.
Never, not all season.
Yep.
Because you have, and I know, excuse me, I know we're not doing team by team, but you have Lundgaard 5th, and then you have Graham 18th and Jack 20th.
Yeah.
But you could say, are they setting the car up for Lundgaard? I don't think so.
I think the philosophy favors Lundgaard.
Yeah.
Like I said last week, I think Lundgaard comes from that Formula One European racing background, so he's trained to drive what he gets, whether he likes it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of where he can get on top of it, I think.
And you look at these last 2 tracks, right? They're road courses, so that's going to favor Lundgaard too, because from his experience.
Yep. And Townsend Bell clearly rooting for Joseph Newgarden during this broadcast, and I'm screaming at Townsend Bell during the broadcast, like, Townsend, it doesn't matter. Will's in 3rd, right? It doesn't matter, Townsend. But I guess, they have to sell a show because it's still a show at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's fine. But Townsend, wasn't happening this year, brother. Sorry.
No, not at all.
Yep.
I love the manufactured storylines just to keep us interested.
So do I.
We don't need it, but I know others do, to stay, in the trenches and watch every race and every lap to see what's going on. For me, it was over by the time those last pit stops came in, and even a little bit before that. You're like, oh, this is how it's going to turn out.
Yep.
Unless something happened, which I always joke that an engine's going to blow or something like that. The
Go to bed, you're drunk.
Break.
Like you
What's
text
that?
me, right? Go to bed, you're drunk. Like you text me, what, Saturday night? Well, Power's going to have a mechanical issue tomorrow.
I was trying to get you riled up. And was it Saturday night?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to bed.
No, it's Friday night. No, it was Thursday night.
I was home. Yeah, I was home. So
it was Thursday night that I was like, hey, this is going to happen. Because you're texting me random stuff late in the night. So I just figured I'd rile you up before you went to bed, see if you didn't sleep that night.
Nope. Phone went on do not disturb like it always does at 10:30 p.m. And
I think I said, what did I say? Will Power was going to win.
No, you said Will Power was going to have mechanical.
And Dixon was going to win the championship. That's what I said.
Yep. And what was my response?
That I was drunk.
Yeah, go to bed. You're drunk. Moving on.
That's funny. Right.
Now, on behalf of the Turn 4 podcast, congratulations to Will Power on his 2nd series championship. Tim, let me lay some stats on here, brother.
All right, let's hear him.
2-time series champion, 2014 and 2022. He's an Indy 500 winner in 2018. You know who's not? 4-time runner-up, 2010, 11, 12, which is crazy, and 16. He is the all-time IndyCar pole winner with 68. He has 41 wins, which puts him 5th on the all-time list. Tim, I know you were holding out hope for Newgarden, and then you were on the Dixon bandwagon. Tell me your thoughts on the finish of this season. I mean, we did talk about it a little bit already.
Well, yeah, we talked about it a little bit. I think there's 2 scenarios that I've already mentioned that this would have been totally different. Mm-hmm. One is the mechanical at Iowa by Newgarden. The other one is Dixon at the Indy 500. We were sitting between turn 1 and 2 or in the short chute.
Yep.
And we all saw him go really fast in the pits and lock him up. Yeah. And we were shocked. I think I didn't see the next 10 laps. I was in awe.
Yeah.
Not with
you weren't buying more McLaren gear.
No, I could have been buying more McLaren gear because that is all over the house, which is crazy. But you got to give it to Will. It's like we said, if he's that consistent, he has 1 win, he wins the championship. I don't think anybody's ever won the champion, maybe one other time with just a single win.
Tony Stewart, 2010, I think is what it was.
Yeah, there was one other, Tony Stewart.
Yep.
He's an open wheel guy.
He is an open wheel guy. Yeah,
I do remember that. Did he ever sell his mansion in Indianapolis?
I don't know.
The Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, the Bass Pro Shop. No, don't know. Good question. Yeah.
But it was a great season. When you have, was it 5-6 racers drivers, if I should say, that have a shot at winning the championship all the way through the last race of the season.
Yeah.
I know not all are legitimate, but they're all mathematically alive.
Yeah.
That shows you something. And I think the caliber of racers, qualifying was a mess for Laguna, for the top 5 or top 6, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, when you look at the results, all of those drivers are up in the top 10 and finished, except for maybe Dixon, who's 12th, but all of them were back in the hunt. So it shows that the drivers that were up there are well deserved to be up there. Will did an amazing job. He deserves, to win the championship. Meeting him and talking to him in Detroit was great. And so seeing him come through and after all those seconds, which I didn't realize, the runner-ups, that's no wonder he was laser focused, not just at the race, but all season on going to the next level when it came to having another championship, because he really wanted it. And he deserved it based on the number of poles, the number of wins, 5th all time on the list. And then the best out there on poles, and he did it in a lot less races than Mario Andretti has.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? Because Mario Andretti is not only a tremendous ambassador for the sport, but a living legend of motorsport.
Totally.
Right? Motorsport, not just IndyCar.
Yeah, across all forms of racing. Everybody knows. So, well deserved by Will. Hopefully he has a nice summer break or winter break, off season, whatever you want to call it. And they couldn't have done anything different. He couldn't have done anything different in the car. I think he drove to what was given to him. I don't think he ever backed down off of what the car was capable of doing. I think he just kept it within its limits the whole season, which then he got the finishes that he got, which kept him in that 6-ish range for average finish.
Yeah. Let me backtrack here for a second. I think, and I'm having trouble finding it, Tony Stewart won the IndyCar IRL championship with 1 win, and I think it's 1997. I said 2010, and I know that's not right, but I think it was a 10 is in my head, but I think it was a 10 race season is when he accomplished that.
That was year 2, right?
Somebody will fact check me, I hope.
Yeah, because the breakup was 96,
96,
I believe. I think that was the first season. Yeah.
So you and I talked to Will in Detroit.
We did.
Which he won at Detroit, by the way. So just putting that out to the teams for next year. And I would say this too, it almost seemed like he came up to us, right? Because we were kind of looking at him and we were kind of standing. It was our first event. It was Thursday. We had never done this before, right?
We were in the media luncheon.
Yep. And he kind of came over and he talked to us and he talked to us about Indy, and he just kind of, and he was very, very nice, right? He was very kind, very calm. It was a good chat. I've been a Power fan for a long time, right? I've been a Power fan for a long time. I'm a Penske fan. He'll be my favorite at Penske until he retires, right? Or he moves on, which I don't know what that means either. But speaking of moving on, right? My anticipation was that 2023, next year, would be Will's last season in IndyCar. But this last week, Roger Penske, not Will or not Will's people, Roger Penske was talking about, hey, we got Scotty's deal done. Now it's time to look at Will.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Give him another couple years.
Do you give him a couple years or do you give him one more? 2024 with like maybe a mutual option?
I think you give him 2. He wins the championship this year.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be more expensive than it would have been if they'd assigned him in the beginning of this year. Right?
Yeah, definitely. But then you always wonder where he's at 41.
Right.
How's the skill level going to be? But I think you keep him around. He's got a ton of knowledge. He's super quick on qualifying, and he can win races still. Only won one, but he can definitely compete. I don't think he's as quick as he used to be, honestly.
No. That's what I was saying last week. I think a 30-year-old Will and a 30-year-old McLaughlin are kind of right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Will, obviously he's 10 years older. So that's kind of a surprise to me. I would say a 1-year extension or one with an option maybe. I'd be happy to see Will stick around, obviously, because I enjoy seeing him.
Yeah.
That partnership with Verizon is, I think, unprecedented. Right, 12 years with the same,
super solid,
and it's not even like the rest of Penske where it's kind of an in and out where the where the sponsorships change. He's the Verizon car, so
totally all the time.
Yep. So the thing is, I don't know where he goes. Like, does he just retire? I think he does something with go-karts Like they build I think he has his own line of go-karts or something, but
Oh,
we've never seen
didn't know.
Will in sports cars.
No, we haven't. He's been a staple at Penske and IndyCar, and that's been
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I've never seen him at 24 Hours of Daytona. Have you?
Nope.
Nothing.
Nothing.
He's just
So I don't
laser
know. Maybe
focused.
when he's done with IndyCar, does he go away?
He could. He's had a stellar career, as you just
Oh
named
yeah.
off a bunch of stats there. So he could. If you sign him 2 years, you're at 44 years old. That seems a
Yeah.
little long in the tooth. So maybe put him on another year. I don't know. I guess you got to look at who's around and what you want to do at that point. But maybe it's a thing of loyalty, right? If Will
Yeah.
wants to race and he's brought so much goodness to the team, I'll call it, then let him race. He's not going to be horrible. He's still going to be competing week in and week out and be in the top 10,
Yep.
which he proved this season. And I think that'll continue for the next several seasons as long as he's in a Penske car.
Yep. Second place in championship, Newgarden -16, as you pointed out, right? If he had won Iowa, it would have been a completely different story to this entire episode.
Mhm.
5 wins. What an amazing, amazing season. I
Great
would
season.
be, I would probably lay in bed for a few days after this season if I were Joseph Newgarden, but that's me, because I'd be pretty bummed out knowing I was the best out there all season long, but just couldn't seal the deal
Yeah.
for one
He's got a new
reason or
baby.
another.
He can't do that. He's
Yeah.
got to keep up with bottles and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So one of the differences, and I talked about that roller coaster finish, right, is that Newgarden has 5 finishes that were 13th or worse. 13th place or worse, 5 of them. Will Power has 2. And I think Dixon has 2 as well. And I didn't put it in the notes. I wasn't rooting against Newgarden, and I know it sounds like in some of these episodes that I wasn't rooting against him, but like I said, I stood on the fact that Will's consistency and this patience that we've seen out of Will this season that we've never seen before, I think is what totally made it different for me, and why I couldn't get on Newgarden's bandwagon.
Yeah, and for me, I wasn't rooting for Newgarden. I just thought based on what he had done and where he was going and how quick he has been, that he was
Yep.
just going to somehow pull this off. And
Yeah, it makes sense.
and
Yeah.
so that's what I was projecting based on what I was seeing.
Yep. Third place, Scott Dixon, 39 points behind. 2 wins this season for Dixie, one at Toronto and one at Nashville after contact. So the key to Nashville is contact in the beginning, and the
I don't
key to
think anybody
Detroit
can
is
get out of
talking to you and I.
Yeah, nobody can get out of Nashville without contact. So I
Yeah.
think for the next number of years, it's at Nashville. Whoever
Yeah.
wins is going to have some type of contact.
We talked about it early. I still say that the setup philosophy at Ganassi has changed a little bit. Maybe they have found that in order to make these cars super, super fast, you got to drive them a little bit different. Maybe that difference lines up a little bit more with Alex Palou and Marcus Ericsson. But nonetheless, Dixon is Dixon. He had a deficit. The one that was hardest to overcome was the Indy 500. And you already talked about that. Speeding in the pit lane, 1 mile an hour over. And that put him behind. He finished 21st. And that was his worst finish of the season, by the way, was Dixon's 21st.
When you have the race in hand.
Yeah. And yeah, he did by far had the race.
No one was going to catch him.
Yeah. We talk about these 40-year-olds in IndyCar, and we just finished talking about Power, and Newgarden is young, and he's got a nice long contract with Penske, as he should. And I know we've joked about it before, Tim, but what do you really see out of Scott Dixon going forward?
I was expecting him to hang it up, but
I know you have for like 2 seasons.
Well, I said last season if he won the championship, he'd be done. But based on the interviews I've seen and his, quest to continue racing, he's going to be around for much longer than I would ever imagine. I'm super surprised, honestly, that he's sticking around. I could see him as an advisor to the team. I know Dario's in that role today. But he's going to be with Chip Ganassi after he retires, in my opinion.
For as long as he wants to be. Yep. I see him in
the
one
driver's seat.
Yeah. I see him in one of
the
Cadillacs in IMSA. Why not? He's done IMSA before. And I'm not saying like the full season. I'm saying like the enduros, right? The ones that make sense. Go to Le Mans, do 24 hours of Daytona, Petite Le Mans in Georgia. I think, those types of things. Maybe come back and do the IMSA race at Indianapolis, right? At the Speedway.
Yeah.
But I don't see Dixon doing a full season, but I also don't see him just hanging up his helmet and growing olives and tomatoes.
I'd like him to do that.
Mhm.
I'd like him to hang it up and just, he's done so well. And I'm not saying he's going to do it this year or next year, but in the next couple, like it's time to move on, I would think. But as I saw, and he's not going anywhere. So,
Right.
Maybe he wants that. Obviously, I know there's a couple things he wants. And the one thing in particular is the Indy 500 win.
Yeah.
Another
He's
one.
only
He's
got
got
one.
one.
Yep.
So I know he wants that. So stick around for that and do the Indianapolis 500. And but who knows?
Yeah. If there's one guy I think who can do like one race a season and just be in the Indy 500 and have a chance to win it, I think it's Dixon. I don't think it's Marco Andretti, right? We've talked about that before, but or Ryan Hunter-Reay. But I think Dixon can do it. If he retired and came back to the 500 the next 2 years or whatever, I think he'd have a better than average shot, even just doing the one race a year.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed this season of IndyCar. I've enjoyed the last couple of seasons of IndyCar, but our friend, Chef Brian, or at 500 Indy 1911 on Twitter, he writes, and this was pretty good. He says, "Congratulations, IndyCar fans. In 16 months, you have been witnesses to 5 massively historic IndyCar events. 1, Elio wins his 4th Indy 500. Dixon's second most that would be, well, Will Power now, right? So most poles. Dixon's second most poles, Indy 500. Yep. Dixon passes Al Sr. for laps led at Indy 500. Dixon, again, passes Mario for wins, and Power passes Mario for poles. An amazing historic season, right? Couple of seasons for IndyCar racing.
Yeah. All of those are amazing.
Yeah.
And you look, Dixon is on 3 of those.
Yeah. It's
which is amazing. It just shows his career and the breadth of his career and how good he is and still is. So just think of that. Second most poles at Indy 500, passes Mario for all-time wins, right? In IndyCar. And then he's got L Senior for laps led at Indy 500 too.
Yeah, it's crazy. That one was surprising me that it was L Senior. Brian also has a number of other stats comparing Dixon and Power, who have amazing careers in IndyCar, more so than even we realized being in the moment. Good stuff, all of it. And, Brian has some really good analysis, as he always does. So we probably have to ask him to be on the show again if he'll come and join us at some point.
Yeah, we were talking about doing that, doing some more Indy 500 stuff, which we'll do this offseason. I think it'll be good.
But let's add to that. IndyCar on NBC and USA averaged 1.7 million viewers through June. I couldn't find a newer stat. And I think there's one out there, but I couldn't find a newer one. That's a 5% increase over 2021. And 2021 was already the most watched season of IndyCar.
Wow.
So things look really good, Tim.
They do look really good. I'd like to still see them higher, but they do look good.
For sure. And that 1.7 is a little sandy, right? Because you figure Indy's probably, 3-4 million people. Viewers. That's
that's the one that tilts that scale, because if you look on an average basis for a regular race, it's about 700 to 900, right? Yeah. So they're skewed a little. If you take Indy out of that, you're probably right around there, which you'd like to see it at 1.1 or 1.2. I'd like to see it equal to NASCAR on any given Sunday.
I'd like to see it equal to Xfinity before it gets to NASCAR, because NASCAR's in the 3s.
Well, even Formula One in the US, I'd like to see it sort of.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that. Yeah,
I guess that's where.
Championship picks. You want to quickly run this down? We could just hit.
Do you have it? Because I don't.
I do. I have it. So you and I both picked Colton Herta to win the championship this season.
We did.
And Herta finished.
As did a lot of others.
Oh yeah,
the industry,
without a doubt. Yeah. He was on. Oh, I just deleted it. I just closed it. So I got it back up.
Skip that part of the show. Yeah. We just deleted that.
So he finished. He finished 10th. Vamp for me. He finished 10th. I picked Grosjean to finish second, which couldn't have been further from wrong. You
Where did
picked
he finish?
Newgarden to finish second. Grosjean finished 13th. I picked Palou third, and he finished fifth because of the tiebreaker. So that
Yes,
wasn't
he
bad.
did.
Where did you
That
pick
wasn't
Palou?
too-
Fifth. Ray Hall, I picked
Where
fourth.
did I pick Palou? Hold on.
You picked Palou fifth. Perfect. Right on. Spot on. Here,
And
I'll go the other way. Will Power, who wins the championship, I had him sixth. You had him eighth.
Mhm.
You and I both had him retiring. Newgarden finished the second. I had him at ninth. You had him at second. So good job on
Okay.
that. Scotty Mack. No show in either
We
one of
didn't
our
have him in the
lists.
top
Yep.
10 at all, did we?
Nope. Palou, I had him finishing third. You had him fifth. So right on for that. Erickson, no show. Award, I had him seventh. He finished seventh. And you had him sixth.
Huh.
Felix finished eighth, right behind Award, which kind of
Wow.
surprises
We didn't
me.
have him in
Yeah,
there.
we didn't
There's
have
no
him in
way.
there. We did not. Rossi finished ninth. You had him fourth. I had him 10th.
There you go.
And Hurt, of course, finished 10th. You and I both had him as champion. Ray Hall, I had him at fourth. You had him at ninth. He finished 11th. VK, believe it or not, I didn't even have him in here, and neither did you, of course.
Mhm.
Grosjean, we already talked about. I had Harvey in eighth. You didn't have Harvey in at all, which makes sense. I understand. Elio, you had 10th. I did not have Elio in here at all.
Yeah.
Which Elio finished 18th.
I had him winning Indy, which would have got him 10th.
Yeah.
With the double points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
wow. It was a great season.
Yeah.
Wonderful season.
We'll review this season in more depth on the next episode, because we'll probably do our Power 5 again for the season review. And we'll cover this a little bit more in depth, as well as more on Formula One, IMSA, NASCAR coming up in subsequent episodes, of course, because IndyCar is over with. Which reminds me, congratulations to Max Verstappen on his win at Monza, even though he doesn't need to win anymore. His words, not mine. So hold on, we're almost done.
I was going to say, next race, you can wrap it up points wise.
Did you watch? So you did watch the race. You said you watched it, right?
I did, yes. I get pulled in every Sunday to watch that.
Abu Dhabi last year was the wrong move by going red flag, right? So the race would finish under green. This year at Monza, it was the wrong move by not going to the red flag. I give up. I don't know what Formula One fans want. I'll tell you what this Formula One fan wanted. This guy, me. I wanted them to go red flag because I wanted them to finish 3 laps under green, all out. You were okay with that thing ending under yellow?
I am. That's the way the rules are laid out. If you want to change the rule book, change the rule book, but you can't artificially, well, you can, depending on what series you are, but you can't artificially throw red flags when you don't need to throw red flag. There's a car stopped on track. I don't know if that's IndyCar, that safety truck is out there immediately. That car is gone. I don't know why it takes 6 laps to get
they left Kellett out there at pit exit for a long time. Let everybody come through for their green flag stops before they hit that yellow flag.
That's new this season.
That was odd. Yeah.
They never do. They've done that in multiple events this year where they've waited to throw the yellow to say, hey, if you're going to pit now, so they don't change the entire running order of the race based on someone getting caught out.
Exactly.
I guess if that's the new rule, that's the new rule. I don't hate it because
I do. It's dangerous. You got Kellett out there at pit exit, and you're letting everybody pit.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Yep.
So F1, I thought they were going to go back green. They can't get the car off the track for whatever reason because they don't have safety trucks. Right? You got to bring this crane out there, and it's like, come on, just get a safety truck and roll it off. So based on what the rule is, I had no problem with it finishing under yellow at all. Would it have been nice to see that go green? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's not the way the rule book is designed, to stop a race just to go green. So I was fine with it.
There you go. All right. That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to our off-season chats, I guess. So
Me
that'll be
too.
fun. And
We'll see who we can
we're
get. I did put out a thing for Juncos.
okay.
Put
They
out a thing
liked,
for
yeah, you
Tony.
did on Twitter, and I
Yeah.
know they responded to that with
Yep.
a good old like. So I'm
Yeah.
looking
So
forward to
we'll
having them
see.
on.
That would be awesome.
I'm
He
working
was a
towards.
great chat. When we
He
talked to him at
was.
Detroit, he was great.
Yes, he was great.
Yeah. So we'll talk a
Yeah,
little bit more about that. We'll try to get some guests on here like we did last year. Um, and we're going to keep going throughout the off season. Our regular cadence is every other week. So if you don't see us, it's because it's probably the off week. So,
yep, that is true.
Yeah. So, hey, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations to Will Power and, Chevy and Christian
Yeah.
Lundgaard and Linus Lundqvist in Indy Lights. So,
Yeah.
and what has been a great IndyCar season. Look forward to an even better one next year. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll look forward to catching up with you in a couple weeks. See you, everybody.
Good night.